Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for attending today's webinar regarding transporting management of precursor explosives, toxic chemicals, and dangerous goods in China. My name is Wang Zhou, and I'm the regulatory consultant from CIRS Ireland. In our last webinar, which is held on October 10th, my colleague Ethan introduced hazardous chemical management in China. So today we will continue this topic and mainly focus on some specific hazardous chemical inventories in China. So firstly, I will go through very shortly of our the overview of China chemical regulations, and we will talk about the specific hazardous chemicals regulation in China. And then we will compare the difference between hazardous chemicals and dangerous goods in China. Last but not least, I will make some summary and give you some practical advice when you decide to export your chemical into China. Okay, so firstly, from this picture, you can see the framework of China chemical regulations and inventories. You can see that the big inventory is called inventory of existing chemical substance in China, which is known as RECSC. If your chemical is new in, if your chemical is not listed in this inventory, it means that your chemical is new in China, and you have to take new chemical notification in China. The second inventory is called inventory of hazardous chemicals in China, which has 2,828 items. In this main hazardous chemical inventories, it also has several specific small inventories, for example, like precursor chemicals inventory, highly toxic chemicals inventory, explosive chemicals inventory, which are our main topics today. So here we also share the chemical regulation framework in China. Typically, we can separate into three parts: registration, the administrative license or permission of hazardous chemicals, and China GHS. In registration, generally it has new chemical substance registration, hazardous chemical registration, and regarding like the license or permission, it has like safety production permission, safety use permission, operation permission. This all permission mainly based on your chemicals and your supply, your role of your supply chain, and your main use of these chemicals. Last but not least is about the GHS. Now China has fully implemented China GHS. So when you export your chemical into China, you must provide the standard Chinese GHS, Chinese standard GHS and the label. Okay, so first we will talk some obligation of registration of some hazardous chemicals. From this framework, you can see that regarding registration of hazardous chemicals, it includes hazardous chemical registration, administration of hazardous chemicals environmental registration, and the import and the export management of toxic chemicals. Regarding hazardous chemical registration, we already talked a lot in our last webinar. Regarding the administration of hazardous chemicals environmental registration, actually is published in 2015. So today, first, I will talk about the import and export management of toxic chemicals. This registration is required for both the foreign merchant and the domestic exporter. So if your chemical is listed in the import and export management of toxic chemicals inventory, if you are a foreign merchant, before you export your chemical into China, you need to take registration to get approval from the MEP, the Ministry of Environmental Protection. And at the same time, to the domestic import of your supply chain, you also need to get the import release sheet so that you can import this chemical in China. On the other hand, if you are a domestic export which want to export the chemical which is in this inventory, before you take the exportation, you need to prepare the export release sheet of toxic chemicals. So here we list all the information you need want to know for both the registration and the release sheet. Specifically for environment management registration of import toxic chemicals, the validity is 5 years. If you want to renew your registration before the validity, you need to submit your application before the 6 months of the validity. And then you will get, then the authority will review your registration and make approval. Okay, so another one is about some inventory introduction. Here, firstly, is about the permission. This part we already talked about in our last webinar. Generally, the obligation is based on your role of your supply chain and your chemical substance. Basically, all these permissions we mentioned, the main obligations belongs to the domestic manufacturer or domestic importer. So if you are a foreign manufacturer, you need to remind your domestic importer to fully comply with this obligation. Regarding the specific of these obligations, you can also check our last webinar, or you can simply write an email to us, and we will please give you more advice. There is some examples of the certificates and the permission. Okay, and the second inventory I'd like to introduce is called inland waterway embargo hazardous chemicals. It's mainly focused on some hazardous chemicals which are forbidden to transport by inland waterway. Basically, one key point you need to be noted is that on 2015, this inventory is updated, and now it has 308 entries. Basically, there are 148 highly toxic chemicals are also listed in the inventory of hazardous chemicals, which you can simply check the inventory of hazardous chemicals, and you will find the mark of this part. However, on the other side, there are also 160 highly toxic chemicals, which are not listed in inventory of hazardous chemicals. So you'd better check the inventory of inland waterway embargo hazardous chemicals directly. Okay, so the third one is about the precursor chemicals, which is a very general regulations, and you'd better know about this. So regarding this regulation of precursor the inventory of precursor chemicals, it requires your obligations. Whatever you do, manufacture, operation, purchase, transportation, import, and export in China, it all requires you need to get permission or license before you do such work. In the inventory of precursor chemicals, there are 3 categories. The first category is about raw materials of drugs, and it also has the most serious supervision. The second category and the third category is about some chemicals, which has less strict supervision. So here we use a table to give you some idea whether you need to do manufacture, operation, purchase, transportation, import, and export. We list all the relative authorities. For example, if you want to manufacture the precursor chemicals in China, first, and this chemical is listed in first category. You need to, firstly, you need to check whether this chemical is a drug or a non-drug. If it is a drug, you have to apply to Provincial FDA to get permission. If it's a non-drug, you need to check with the SAWS to get the permission. So generally from this picture, you can see that there are many different authorities to regulate your different business activities. So we suggest you can use this table as reference and to check this table before you do the real activity. Another regulation inventory is called explosive chemicals. It regulates some chemicals which are used as raw material to make explosives. It also has some requirement of the manufacturing, use, operation, storage, purchase, transport, and transportation. Please be noted that this inventory of explosive made chemicals is updated on this year. So generally, it's a very new. It has a new inventory, and now it has 9 main categories and 74 subcategories. Please be careful that if you manufacture or store any explosive made chemicals, you are required to record exact number of these chemicals you manufacture or sell to any downstream users. And also, necessary security measures are required in case there's any accidents or or loss. And if you find any this kind of chemicals are stolen or lost, you are required to report to the local police department immediately. And the next inventory I'd like to talk is about highly toxic chemicals. Totally, there are 148 different kinds. The permission and or registration is also required when you have manufacture, use, operation, and transportation of the highly toxic chemicals. Regarding this inventory, actually, you can check the inventory of hundreds of chemicals in China. On the column of remarks, it will be highlighted if this chemical is regarded as highly toxic in China. Here we also list some safety measures which are required in China. For example, you are required to record every activities and take necessary safety measures to prevent loss or spread. And also, you have to prepare a specific warehouse and store individually of these chemicals. And it's better to design 2 people to manage this kind of chemicals. Okay, on the last part of this point, we'd like to introduce some points and measures if you would like to import or export hazardous chemicals into China. Firstly, you need to check whether this chemical is listed in inventory of hazardous chemicals. If so, you have to prepare some work so that you can import or export the chemicals successfully into China. Basically, this kind of obligation is under the Decree 597, the regulations on safe management of hazardous chemicals, and the authority is under the customers and like the inception of import and export committees. Here we list some main contents of customers' inception. For example, you need to check whether your chem is same as the inventory of hazardous chemicals if your chemical is listed in this inventory. Another thing you have to check is you have to prepare the Chinese SDS and the label. You need to make sure that your Chinese SDS and label are fully compliant with the China GHS standard. From our experience that many foreign companies, if they'd like to prepare the Chinese SDS and the label, they only do translation work of your English SDS. For example, if your English SDS is translated from your EU CLP, and when you prepare the Chinese SDS, you just do the translation work, which is not enough when you do the customer's inception, because as you may know that now China has more serious situation of import or export hazardous chemicals. They will focus on your Chinese SDS and label. For example, if your Chinese SDS label don't have a Chinese product name, they will regard your SDS is not qualified, and they will hold your products on customers and ask you to update your SDS and label. Another thing is, if your chemical is listed in inventory of hazardous chemicals, they will check your classification, GHS classification. If it's different from the official classification, which is listed in inventory of hazardous chemicals, they may also ask you to update your SDS and label. So generally, please be careful when you prepare the Chinese SDS and the label. Okay, so then we'd like to talk about some difference between hazardous chemicals and dangerous goods in China, which now is actually a very hot topic because sometimes many companies, they don't know the difference between hazardous chemicals and dangerous goods, and they think they just the same, they are the same thing. So basically, from the definition, the hazardous chemicals are defined as highly toxic chemicals and other chemicals which are toxic, corrosive, explosive, flammable, and are harmful to human bodies, facilities, and the environment. Dangerous goods are substances or articles which are harmful to human health, public safety, and environmental safety. These definitions are very, very general, and basically we will use like GHS standards and TDG standards to check whether your chemical is hazardous chemicals or dangerous goods. Basically, the simple difference between hazardous chemicals and dangerous goods is regarding the hazard classification. The hazardous chemicals mainly focus on the whole life cycle hazard management. However, regarding the dangerous goods, it only focuses on the transportation hazardous management. Specifically to TDG, it also has different regulations based on the way you make transportation. For example, if you transport by air, by sea, or by road, it all has different specific regulations. The easiest way we distinguish hazardous chemicals and dangerous goods is use the classification. We all know that in China, the GHS classification totally is 28, including 16 physical hazards, and health hazards, and 2 environment hazards. However, regarding the TDC classification, it only has 9 main classifications. Here you should be noted that although some main categories are same in both GHS and TDG, they also have some difference in the subcategories. And also, the GHS has some classification which the TDG doesn't have. And TDG also has some classification that GHS doesn't have. This is actually a very good method that can help us to check whether your chemical is listed in hazardous chemicals or dangerous goods. Now we can use some very simple example to give you some idea. For example, here we use the phenolphthalein to give you an example. The first table is give you the GHS classification, and the second table is about the TDG classification of this chemical. From these 2 tables, you can see that they all have the classification of flammable liquid category 2, but it also has very different other classifications. And here we can give you some idea of how to confirm whether your chemical is dangerous goods or hazardous chemicals. We make decision based on the classification of hazardous chemicals and dangerous goods. For example, the first one is about ethanol alcohol. Because it has both because it has the classification of flammable liquid, which is listed in both dangerous and hazardous chemicals. So we can regard ethanol alcohol as both dangerous goods and hazardous chemicals. To the second one, the hexabromine bisphenol has the classification of carcinogenicity and reproductive toxicity, which are some long-term classification and are not indicated as TDG classification. So regarding this chemical, it's not a dangerous goods, but consider it has the GHS classification. We can regard it as a hazardous chemicals in China. Last but not least is about the lithium battery. We can see that it only has classification of miscellaneous dangerous goods, which is part of the classification of dangerous goods. So you know that this classification is not listed in GHS classification. So this battery only can be regarded as dangerous goods in China. After you confirm the classification of your hazardous chemicals, you can prepare the package. Generally, here we list some examples of your, no matter your chemical is solid or liquid. Okay. Before we end this chapter, we can give you some suggestions of if your chemical is dangerous goods in China. Firstly, is TDG. You need to confirm the TDG classification and the labeling. You may notice that the picogram of TPG is different as the pictogram in CHS. So you need to choose the exact labeling elements when you prepare the label. Second one is about the package. As you confirm your TPG classification, you need to prepare the package on the classification. There are three different kinds of package requirements. The package one, two, and three. One is the most serious dangerous goods, and the third one is the least dangerous goods. Besides, in China, if you want to transport dangerous goods, you must entrust some transportation company which have specific certificates. If they don't have the certificates, you can't ask them to transport dangerous goods for you. So, and besides, to the designated people who are responsible to transport your chemicals in the transportation company, they also should have some training, specific training, and they need to get the certification before they do such work. So basically, I would suggest that if you would like to entrust a transportation company to make transportation for you, you need to check the certification both for the company and for the carriers. Okay, on the last part, we will give you some practical advice. Basically, there are two parts. Firstly, if you want to bring some chemicals into China, the first thing you may consider is to take the inventory search. For example, you need to check whether your chemical is new in China, whether this chemical is regarded as hazardous in China, and also if they are listed in some specific hazardous chemicals inventory. For example, if your chemical is a precursor chemicals in China, besides you fulfill the obligation of general hazardous chemicals in China, you also have to comply with the obligations of precursor chemicals in China, which are very complicated. And the second one is you need to confirm the role of your supply chain in China, because as we just mentioned, some obligations are only for the domestic importer or manufacturer. So although maybe your chemical is listed in hazardous in China and you have many obligations to comply with, but you may omit this part based on the role of the supply chain, and you should mention your local importer to fulfill such obligations. So here we use a flow chart to give you more advice. First thing you need, like I just said, you need to check whether your chemical is listed in IECSA, because this is the first step. You need to check whether this chemical is an existing chemical in China. And then you need to check whether your chemical is hazardous. If your chemical is listed in the inventory of hazardous chemicals in China, you are required to take the registration of hazardous chemicals in China. This obligation could be taken by either the local importer or should be taken by the local importer. So you may check by yourself. And then it's just some specific inventory. For example, if it's in the list of toxic chemicals registered to be imported or exported. If so, as a foreign company, you are required to take the registration by yourself. And then it's some specific inventory like precursor chemicals, explosive made chemicals, and highly toxic chemicals. These obligations mainly belongs to the local importers or the Chinese downstream users. And another one is about the dangerous goods. For now, you must pay attention to your Chinese SDS and the label, and also when you entrust some transportation company to transport the dangerous goods for you, you must check their license, their certifications, and besides the certifications of the drivers and the designated people who will handle your dangerous goods. And last but not least, if your chemical is not listed in all these inventories we just mentioned, you need to check whether it's also under some other regulations like cosmetics, food additives, with contact material, pesticides, and some other regulations. If so, you have to consider to comply with this specific regulations. Consider our headquarters is in China, and we are very familiar with such inventories we mentioned. So if you have any questions of these inventories or your applications when you export your chemicals into China, you are welcome to send us an email. We will give you some preliminary analysis and tell you your applications in your supply chain. Okay, so regarding all these inventories we mentioned, if you want to check whether they are listed by yourself, you are welcome to use our free system, the APCISS. We list most of China chemical inventories on the website, and it's very easy that you can use your chemical name or the cost number to search these inventories in China, and it's totally free. And we will also give you some advice after you search the inventory. Okay, so this is today's webinar. If you have any questions, you are welcome to send your questions to our email, and we will reply to you shortly. Thanks.